Emerging technologies. It's something that has provided passion for me for way over 2 decades. Whether it's my role as a technology advisor, analyst for Phocuswright, or through my consulting practice, Travel Tech Consulting, I have been tracking emerging technologies for a long time. And by the way, Simon, I did talk about mobile and smartphone very, very early, so just to let you know that. We're going to talk about a lot of topics today, and there's a lot of things out there. But the most important part of this session on emerging technologies is to try to be realistic. What are the things that you need to pay attention to? And we've really assembled a great panel here that's going to discuss various aspects of emerging technologies and hopefully provide you some real sound advice on what you should do. So I'd like to bring up our panelists now. First, very happy to have the head of auto, finance, telco, and travel. That's a long title. From Facebook, Terry Kane. And the CEO and co-founder of Boxever, David O'Flanagan. And the creator, director, and co-founder of the World VR Forum, Salar, Shahna. Actually, Dave, can you sit over there? So, gentlemen, let's just start with a little bit of introductions on who you are, what you do at your various roles, and how does that relate to emerging tech. Why don't you go ahead and start, Terry?
Yes, certainly. Absolute pleasure to be here. So, Terry Kane, I've spent my life in travel, all the way through education, through doing those jobs in hotels, all the way through university, then to moving into more strategic roles within organizations such as STA Travel, and then with destination management in the UK, then Jumeirah Group head of digital strategy, finally to the past 3 years where I've headed up a number of verticals in the Middle East and North Africa for Facebook companies. Travel is my background, although I head a number of other verticals.
Thank you. Dave?
Yeah, so I'm the CEO and co-founder of a company called Boxever. We're a data science company, and our product, our customer intelligence cloud, is used by some of the world's leading travel brands, Emirates, Air New Zealand, Finnair, eDreams ODigeo, and a host of others, really to help them transform the customer experience. So we would help them optimize and personalize customer interactions in digital channels, programmatic, web, mobile, email. But also we're doing some pretty cool and exciting stuff in the in-person world, so help them optimize interactions in the contact center for some of our airline customers, in the airport, and actually in the plane as well. So, at the essence, our technology helps these organizations make customer interactions smarter.
Also, and I'm running the World Virtual Reality Forum. It's great to be in a travel event because I think there's one keyword which gathers what I do and what travel industry does. It's experience, because that's what it's all about. My background is cinema. I was a filmmaker and film producer. Then I went fully dived into virtual reality because in ways I think cinema had become boring and there was so much more space for experimentation in virtual reality. And also, in my opinion, it's the biggest shift of paradigm since the invention of the cinema, because now we are inside the image. So we've launched our annual summit in Switzerland, which is basically like the Cannes Film Festival meets Davos for VR. Our second edition just ended last Sunday, so it was a big success. What we try to do is bridge all the different skills, like science, art, industry together, because VR is new, but in labs they've been working on it for many, many years. So we think that to help the industry push forward, we need to bridge all these different skills.
Thank you, Salar. So one of the overarching themes across these different technologies are the way that people interact with technology. So the idea that you would use virtual reality to help plan your vacation, or that you use a chatbot over Facebook Messenger to get immediate responses for customer service, or that as you interact with a supplier, it's suddenly more personalized due to some big data crunching that's going in the back. When you look at the landscape and you think about those technologies or others, can you just comment on how you think that's going to change the travel process in the near term and then in the kind of midterm levels? So near term within the next year or 2 years, midterm the next 5 years.
Shall I kick off from
Sure.
from our perspective?
Go ahead.
So the way we look at, I guess, the future of technology and how it's going to impact people globally, it's a 10-year plan. I mean, that's pretty much as far out in terms of technology development that I think is, possible to look. But if you look out into that 10-year vision, AI, VR, mixed reality, connectivity, etc., all plays an enormous role further out. And building for that now is exceptionally important as we're doing throughout all of our developments on mobile. The reason why we look 10 years out and the reason why we build in the way that we do build is it comes back to our mission. We're a mission-based company. Our mission is to make the world more open and connected. There's still an enormous portion of the world which is unconnected, and people want to share experiences in a much more meaningful way to them, a much more expressive way, a much more instant way between people, between groups, but also between businesses as well. And businesses play an enormous part in the experience that people have on Facebook. The information that that you receive about a brand that is relevant to you is important to you, as long as that information is given to you in a way that's meaningful, respectful of my timeline, because this is my timeline. And all 1.8 billion timelines are very, very different. And one of the things that travel companies have to really consider in the immediate future, coming back to the 1 year out, is the utilization of mobile, because I really do think that that has yet to really take off in the travel industry. And when you think about mobile, various different statistics exist about how many times people unlock their phones per day, but it's an enormous amount. And Simon, covered it off earlier. People get fidgety if they 10 minutes you haven't checked your phone. When you think about it, would you rather leave behind? Would you rather leave behind your wallet or your telephone? You'd probably rather leave behind at home your wallet. That's how important the mobile device is to us today as individuals. And really what I think, what people are doing in that mobile device is yet to be fully understood by the travel industry and yet to be fully utilized by the travel industry through data, through creativity, through targeting. And I guess coming back to the distribution side of travel, which is a key part of this, and search is not the starting point for a mobile phone. The starting point for mobile phones is apps. And that's a big mind shift change. That's a paradigm shift for the travel industry.
Dave?
Yeah, I'd echo some of Terry's sentiment, but I guess part of the, at a macro level, I think we can see interfaces are starting to fall away. They're starting to compress. If you think about when I bought travel 20 years ago, I went into a branch, and I spoke with an agent. As we went online, we then interacted more with the website, and that's gradually moved to mobile. And if you look forward, what's happening, it's moving towards voice and other, right, where the interface actually doesn't exist. It's much more ephemeral. So I think, as a trend, it appears to be that way, and I think wearables, IoT, all these things are going to influence how we interact with travel suppliers in the future. It is interesting though, because it's hard so we're an enterprise technology company. We sell to enterprises, so it's incredibly challenging for an airline or an OTA to try predict the future. They have limited investment capabilities. For an airline, their main concern is making sure that their operations run effectively, and at the same time, they're being challenged to become digital businesses, right? So I think what they've got to do, rather than try to predict the future, is build an organization that can anticipate what might be next, and have a capability in the organization to try, test, and learn new things, right? So I think for some airlines, chatbots might be a very effective means of communication, but it's not clear whether it's a sales opportunity or a service opportunity, potentially service. That's my opinion, right?
Or both.
Or both, right? So and we don't know, and I think it will depend on the airline, their base, and how that evolves. It might be that the branded mobile app falls away and it becomes mobile web, right? I think what we're seeing with some of our most successful customers is what they're trying to do is build an agility and capability into the organization to be able to try and test chatbots, VR, AR, whatever is coming next. And I think for the airlines or organizations that are going to be most successful, they're going to be able to try and test these things in a cost-effective way and see what's working or what's not. But certainly, to kind of echo Terry's sentiment, mobile is a given, right? I think the interface is going to be primarily mobile. We're seeing the conversion rates or the transition from desktop to mobile is astonishing. It's astonishing how fast it is, and it's catching most of our customers off guard, if I'm honest. And it's interesting, is it Bill Gates that said, you overestimate technology in the short term, and you underestimate it in the long term. And I think certainly mobile is at that point at the moment. Yeah. And I think what we're seeing with chatbots and things, we're kind of in that kind of uncomfortable stage, probably teenage years of chatbots, where everybody's still trying to work it out. And is it effective as we believe it is? I think it will be, and we all know it's going to be. Yeah. But certainly there's still some kinks to be ironed out. So it's hard for an enterprise organization to make a big bet on a technology in the future because things are changing so quickly.
Well, that's a good lead-in for you, Salar.
Yeah,
what
sure.
about the broad subject of AR, VR, and MR?
Well, I think it's really about making the user journey more compelling. And also in an era where we have too much information, so it's about bringing back the experience from before, during, and after. So before, as a provider, where you can start the experience of the user. I mean, Etihad, Qantas have been working with VR in the airplanes, so you're already bringing the user in experience. For hotels, it's a great tool. And then during your stay in a resort or in a new place, with AR, and we're a bit behind, so this in 3 years' time, you can enhance the experience. And you can be skiing and seeing where are your friends, you can see where are the dangerous slopes, where are the good ones
so
for you.
So you'll see a tree also?
Kind of. And then for sharing, because it's all about sharing our memories after a travel.
Yeah.
So with user-generated content, with 360 pictures, 360 videos, social VR, it's a great tool to then pursue the experience for your friends on sharing.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I think one of the challenges, as many of the folks probably know, I do a lot of the screening and coaching for the startups who present at the conferences for Phocuswright. And one of the challenges for the established companies is embracing emerging technologies in a way that's practical, and then actually bringing that into mainstream. So in the case of VR, AR, what we've seen is mostly test environments. You go into a Marriott, there's a couple of booths you can do that, or certain rooms at the hotels. Or with chatbots, we're going to throw out a chatbot, see if it's going to fit. And going back to the earlier point you made, Terry, as far as smartphones, that came from outside the industry and then just disrupted the whole industry. Do we see these types of things coming in from general, that chatbots will be the norm outside of travel, so then they become part of travel, or VR, AR, or mixed reality, or personalization is expected on everything else I buy, therefore I expect it when I'm searching for airline? So is it more an outside in, or is there room for the industry itself to innovate around these new technologies? Anyone who'd like to answer that?
Well, there's a lot in that statement. I think personalization is the one that I would focus in on as being the cornerstone to all aspects of the development. Personalization, and coming back to the point that mobile is driving this, that your mobile is probably the most personal device to you. You expect everything on that device to be relevant and personal to you. Every app that you open, you expect it to be about you. When you open your Facebook, your Instagram, or on any other platform, you expect that experience is about you, including all of the interactions that you will have with businesses. I actually took down the number before I came in. There's 1.2 billion people using Messenger on a monthly basis. There's 100,000 monthly active bots and 2 billion messages between people and businesses per month. Wow. 2 billion per month. So it is very much part of people's lives on Facebook and business. And what we're seeing is we're at the infancy of this. I mean, you mentioned your experiences of mobile in the early days. I think what we're at in the messenger bot side of things is very much just at that very precipice of becoming large, much larger than what it is today. And there's lots of examples of messenger bots where people are booking, buying businesses, and that's a mixture of artificial intelligence with real people, real interactions. I think for the travel industry, what's really important to understand is that you can now own a relationship once again directly. You can have that personal relationship once again directly. So whenever I come to Amsterdam Tourism Board, whoever it might be, is able to talk to me about my experience in Amsterdam and what I can do within Amsterdam, and even to the point of booking it, theoretically it could book me that experience within Amsterdam as well. So
I find it fascinating that we talk about personalization so much. I I had actually, through my consulting practice, a relationship with a company called Broadvision in the late 90s. And they were supposed to be the benchmark, the pioneer in personalization. And that was the 90s. And we're talking about a long time ago. So this subject has been going round and round in the industry. And now, all the CEOs come up on stage and say, yeah, we have a personalization goal. But Dave, what does that really mean? How do you actually deliver what Terry was saying? Something that's relevant, that's contextually relevant. I mean, it seems like a lot of work behind the scenes has to happen for that to be the delivery.
Yeah, it's hard, right?
It's hard, yeah.
And I think organizations underestimate what it takes to do it right. So I think what you'll typically find is that, well, I think what most people would agree is that there's very few organizations out there that are doing it really, really effectively, right? It's really interesting that that's the case, right? Because we're a 5-year-old company. We work with a host of airlines around the world, and from our perspective, I think what we've seen over even the last 2 years is a real uptick in a desire to do this now. Why is that? I think that customer experience, maybe not. Personalization is a very technical term. I think customer experience and customer engagement is now at the forefront of most CEOs' minds. They believe they have a data set locked away within their organization that they can monetize in different ways. And I think now is the time that if they're going to become truly digital businesses and engage in a digital way, like an Uber, like an Airbnb, like a Facebook, like a Google, then they're going to have to get smarter about the information that they have within their organization. So, what we're seeing is a real desire to do it. But I think what's happened maybe traditionally is that if you go all the way back to Broadvision as an example, they were doing kind of e-commerce tech, but alongside that there was the big CRM projects of the late 90s, right, which were massive investments, hugely overhyped and hugely underdelivered. And I would argue that big data 4 or 5 years ago had a similar type of promise, right? So, we've been working a lot to try justify the dynamics of or the business case to do this, right? So when we work with an organization, we will try work out what their business objective is, and typically it's all about, I want to get smarter on my acquisition. I want to be more effective in terms of how I integrate my information with Facebook, for instance. I want to get smarter in how I convert my customers through the digital channels. I want to build a more effective retention strategy, or my net promoter score could be better, right? So when we start from that business objective, then you work back and you say, okay, if we do that, we look at the customer journeys and the personalization strategies that you could deploy to materially impact that particular business goal, and then we find the data or aggregate the data to be able to do that, which is very, very different from more traditional approaches where I build the data, I build my models, and then I try find an output. And I can't tell you how many organizations that we've stepped into, and they come in and say, we've spent X number of million on our data warehouse, we've got an army of data scientists, we've got the best models in the world, and I don't know what to do with them, right? It's incredible, like it really is. And I think the most successful organizations flip it on its head. It's like, what do I want to achieve, and work back from that, and then become, back to my original point, it's about being smart and agile. Here's a business problem we want to tackle. Here's 5 hypotheses that we want to be able to deploy to tackle that, and hopefully 1 or more of those will be successful.
And we have a question from the audience. Can we take a question?
Oh, okay.
Hi, this question for Terry from Facebook. So when I arrived here in Amsterdam, I received a message, welcome to Amsterdam. I checked in, and then I started receiving a bunch of POIs that my friends had been to, restaurants and so on.
Yeah.
I'm also sharing all my experiences there. I saw as well recently in Messenger started to accept payments. Yeah. When will I be able to start to do commerce on Facebook, to transact, to book my hotel, to book my flights and so on? Google is already transacting, but can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's. Thank you for sharing the experience. It's good to see that you're getting the recommendations from the people that are most relevant and important to you when you arrive in Amsterdam. So look, I mean, the commerce is happening on Facebook and Instagram. On Facebook Messenger already. So it's active, it's live. What I think you're referring to is how can businesses now develop their services to enable bookings, etc. One of the big challenges for that was obviously payments, which is what we're working on right now to enable that experience. But you can book restaurants right now, for example, on Messenger if the company has developed it themselves. A recent one, for example, I live in Dubai, is Pier Chic, is one of the well-known restaurants in Dubai. They've recently launched the Facebook Messenger bot for booking restaurants as well, and this is a top-end restaurant, but it's all driven by AI as well, and it's booking, and it's integrated with their system. So that, if you refer to commerce as that is existing today. If you're referring to commerce in terms of booking and actually paying on the platform, it is in beta at the moment in some parts of the world. We are obviously looking at that as an area to roll out. Because we do see it as being a major part of the experience on our platforms.
Another question from the audience?
Hi, I'm a journalist from Travel on Move, a French media. I have a question for you as well, Terry. Can you tell us more about Hem, your virtual assistant, and how it can help travelers? Do you think that this is a future of travel?
So this is the virtual assistant. Look, there's a couple of things in this. One is, let me also come back to this point because they are interrelated. We've also just released Destinations on Facebook in beta as well. And this is, Destinations allows you to go to a city on Facebook and see where your friends, etc., recommend, and see where brands are recommending based upon your interests and behaviors, etc. So that's live now. What you're referring to is in Messenger itself. So whenever you are interacting with a brand, etc., it asks you, would you like to reserve or book, etc. That again is in very early stages at the moment. In terms, do we see it as the future? We see all aspects of Messenger development as being the future. Messenger is a key part of the personal journey that you have with any brand, with your friends, etc. as well. But we definitely see that as being a key part to the personalization, the personal experience on our platforms, and people want it. You know, people want, as the 2 billion messages per month shared between people on Facebook and businesses directly state, they want to interact with businesses directly. So we see this as being very much a part of our future.
So, Salar, I wanted to ask you, kind of tagging on to this personalization theme, is there a role for personalized VR or personalized AR or mixed reality?
Yeah.
Do you see that happening at all?
Yeah, definitely. But I think the most important word in VR is not personalization, but embodiment. It's really that you feel that you are yourself or you are that somebody and you feel connected. Otherwise, the experience is not compelling. And I don't want to speak on behalf of Facebook, but I don't know who has tried Facebook Spaces. Is any one of you? Facebook Spaces is the new OS for Facebook in VR, and that is a very good example of how you can create a personal relationship and customer journey in VR, because you have your avatar. You do feel like him, you can see yourself in the mirror, you can move with it, and you can be together in that space. And like if you take a 360 picture and put it in the middle, then you will be in that environment. So I could totally see Facebook Spaces becoming a great tool for like a travel agency, where you can receive a customer, you talk with him, you interact with him, then you can say, okay, this will be a hotel. You take that picture, you put it in the middle, and boom, there you are. And then you can show the different places, and I think this is a great tool to communicate with the user.
It's kind of tagging onto that a little bit. I think one of the challenges I've seen in the industry for a long time, especially for not just the OTAs, but traditional travel agents and tour operators, is connecting with the traveler while they're en route. And whether it's through a digital assistant or some type of Facebook environment, it seems like that's the big opportunity that has been missed for years. So I was wondering, anybody have an opinion on how that's going to develop, so that since I have my mobile device, I'm in destination, rather than just welcoming you and giving you suggestions, you're actually kind of with me the whole time. Do you see that being facilitated through technology?
Yeah, definitely, yeah, sure. I mean, with AI and boats, I mean, you could have directly messages coming in, geolocalized, they know where you are, they can say, oh, there's a great place there you could eat, there's something you could do, and during your whole journey, receive information like this. And then you can connect it to VR, because if you have a mobile VR headset with you, then you can even see it after you receive the indication. Okay, I want to see what is this. Okay, tack. Right, cool.
Yeah.
We're actually developing a use case to try to enable day of travel or take the pain out of day of travel, right? So with one of our customers, they notice a huge issue with lost bags and the emotion and the Net Promoter Score around lost bags. So we've worked with them on that journey, right? And it's really connecting the dots across a number of different interfaces, but also about being with the customer during that rather painful experience, right? So it's not that we can fix the operational issue, but you can fix the customer experience issue, right? So Boxever is connected into different data sources within their organization, but also their operational data source. So we know the bag hasn't made the plane, once the plane takes off. So we're connected to their iPad device that's held by the cabin crew attendant. We can say, hey, it's Norman 42A, or maybe you're up the front, but you can, the cabin crew attendant can go to you personally and attend to you, and the next best action is based on your brand, your worth to the brand. If you're a high-value customer or you're part of the loyalty program, we could potentially offer you a business class upgrade subject to availability, or it's just a free coffee. But it's all about being proactive in the experience, right? Yeah. But when you land, I think this is the connection, right? Yeah. When you land, you switch on Wi-Fi. We send a notification via Facebook Messenger, right? So the bot can then start interacting as you're going to the baggage carousel. So at that point, you can go back and forth and try resolve it within the bot. But if the customer isn't comfortable in that interface, they can click the call and they end up getting a human in the contact center, and they're rerouted around the IVR, so they get to that person, and that person has the context of everything that went before, right? And at the end, by the time the person hits the baggage carousel, the issue is at least proactively dealt with by the airline, and the emotion or the anguish is taken out from the customer experience. So I think that's a good example from the way we view it. Personalization sometimes is people get a little bit concerned about ad targeting or whatever it is, right? Sure. Personalization is much more than that. It's about making people feel welcome in a Facebook app. It's about connecting the dots across multiple different interactions to be able to interact with a person like they're a human, right? And it's really about bringing that humanity back to this digital experience.
That's interesting. Any other comments about en route support? You think that Facebook is going to play a role in that part of the life cycle?
Well, look, I mean, in terms of industry, travel industry specific, I think the travel industry maximizes or can maximize the platform potential in Messenger through integration with partners like Boxever, and obviously then in the creativity with the virtual reality experiences. So I think that there's a paradigm shift required within the travel industry, again, to Simon's point previously, that this is probably the biggest shake-up that the travel industry has gone through since the PC era. It's now that fourth industrial revolution, and thinking about that full journey across the experience, from that researching, top of the funnel kind of, I'm not sure where I want to go, to actually coming back. There may be even a stage before that is what inspires you, and friends and family are the place to do that, and that's the personalization as well, is what's relevant to me in Amsterdam is based upon what my friends and family tell me. I would never have thought of going to X place before my friends and family had been there. So there's a whole journey throughout the... But
a common theme, though, also is making sure you get it right and it supports your brand, because if you have a bad VR experience or you have a bad chat bot experience, that is a negative effect on the brand. Absolutely. So I can't believe it, but we have 1 minute left. This one very, very fast. Can I just ask each of you, what would be the recommendation, practical? Now, we've talked about emerging technologies, all this stuff is out there. What should the audience do when they go back to their day job relative to any one of the technologies we've talked about? And just advice.
Yeah, so, I mean, as you said it, don't do VR to do VR, because bad VR is the worst enemy of virtual reality, and after the first hype is gone, people won't care anymore if you don't make substantial, quality, meaningful stuff. So for all the regular 360 videos, leave it in the hands of the users. Connect with brands who make 360 cameras, put them in the hands of the users, so they can just do their own 360 videos, and they will share it on Facebook, because Facebook has a great support for 360 videos. Bring good story in everything you do, and people first, again, like create emotions, create relationships and story. That's the most important.
Great.
Yeah, I think create a small team, make it autonomous, and go try and test things, right? The essence of digital transformation is all about organizational change, right? And how do you enable an organization to try, test, and learn? And I think that don't bring a McKinsey or BCG to try do it, but do carve out a capability within your org that can try and test these new things, these new opportunities. Because I think AI, VR, all this stuff is tremendously exciting, but we're not quite sure where it's going to land.
No time for my comments. We're out of time.
Well, you can make a comment. We'll let you, if you have one comment, sure.
I mean, they're directed at the audience that are in the room today. I mean, you're all pretty senior executive, if not the most senior executive within your own organizations. It's to realize that mobile is the center of people's lives. And if you were to start a business today, your own business, would you be doing it the same way that you're doing it right now in your own organizations, and put mobile at the center of that conversation?
Great. Well, thank you very much, Terry. Dave.